Hey everyone, it is Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. Thank you for coming through. We got a new setup and some of the technological stuff going on. Hopefully, you can see me okay and see my forefathers, Mr. James Baldwin, as well as the bottom of John Coltrane. This is Bring Your Worth TV. I come to you live on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm here to support you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. My thing is to help you level up. You can go ahead and subscribe at the links below. You go also will see it on the chat to your left, as well as maybe to your right, to one of those sides, as well as with the links right below, right below my big head. Thank you for the shirt from Books Are Magic. Shout out to Brooklyn all day. They're doing a lot of cool stuff during this summer, particularly with Pride Month and other things. Be sure and check it out if you're in the boroughs. You can get my complete collection, my latest book, my 27th. That's a complete Bring Your Worth collection, available wherever fine books are sold. You can also get it at damebrown.net, along with my Bring Your Worth mug, which is actually getting washed right now, as well as my Built From Now T-shirt and all the cool stuff that I have available over there for y'all. In case you missed it, I had a Start Your Business Now Step-by-Step Masterclass. We actually did it last month. So if you joined me last month and you came through for the lives, then you saw step by step of that. We got it all together, combined, hanging out, chilling. It will actually help you go from with your basic idea and concept to how you can execute that basic idea to how you can create your product or service, whether it's a cloud-based digital thing or if it's actually a physical product. A lot of people that I've coached have done physical products. It's a whole different animal. We actually address some of that, ways that you can be supported with that, to reaching that audience. And then finally, if you're an opportunity, get the opportunity to do what I did a few years ago, to actually sell your company and what goes into that, such an important part of the process. Be sure to check it out. Again, all the links I'm talking about are below. And today's show, we are talking about when to end business partnerships. This is such an important part of the discussion. It's kind of a natural energy based on the masterclass that we just had, where we talked about this idea to executing it, to creating the product or the service, to reaching your customer, getting paid for it. There are various ways you can get paid, and actually getting your company acquired or exiting, someone actually buying your business. Part of that, though, part of that journey is actually figuring out when partnerships wrap up. And this applies to business partnerships. This could apply to personal partnerships, whether it's like a marriage or I know folks that I coach that have businesses with family members. Oftentimes, more often than not, those things are kind of intertwined. And so the process of going through those things is such an important energy. And I think the key part of it is to figure out what your main motive is, how your partnership works with the other person or people, and then when that partnership actually should be wrapping up. So we're going to be talking about that today. In today's newsletter at joindamon.me, I have a weekly newsletter, fresh out the oven, every Wednesday at around 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Today we talked about when to end a business partnership, as well as when you can't see the path. You cannot see the path. One of the things I talked about in the newsletter, and again, it's for free, so it's available for you whenever you want to check it out, as well as the archives, is that when you are on their path, it's easy to assume the path will always be clear. I give the analogy of the seasons, and right here in Las Vegas, it's most of North America, it's going to be the first full day of an only complete day of summer. Temperatures going up. It's going to be 106 today here in Vegas. And so we have one definitive day. I believe it's June 24th this year, which is the summer. That's when it's going to be the hottest ever. Not technically, but you know what I mean? We have peak summer. Then, of course, around December 22nd, 23rd, here in the Northern Hemisphere, and then we have the opposite. We have the full day of winter. But that means that the other 63 days out of the 365, they are actually somewhere in between. So that means the path isn't quite clear. There's only literally one day scientifically every year where we can say, yes, it's summer. Yes, it's fully winter. And of course, with the equinoxes, yes, it's fully autumn or fall. Yes, it's fully spring. But the rest of it is transition from spring to winter. I'm sorry, spring to summer, summer to fall, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes. Northern hemisphere, some lower or southern hemisphere, it's the same. We just happen to be on polar opposites of the same dance, but it's the same energy. Therefore, our ability to navigate what season we're in ends up being the the strength, almost like the Darwin idea, or what was made popular in research, as far as the survival of the fittest. But the survival of the fittest is based on those that are the most adaptable, not just flexible, but adaptable, adapting to that particular environment. That applies to what we're talking about today, because when it comes to when a partnership is it's time to wrap it up, then I think it's really important to know exactly what that signal is, why that matters, and why it's important to the process. If we're not doing that, then what are we talking about? Because not everything was meant to last forever. Be sure and check out the newsletter if you want to go deeper into that. Plus, the newsletter talks about exclusive things I never talk about on the channel, as well as some coaching principles and other things that might help you level up. All right. So the first big question, number one, that I often get when I'm coaching and we're talking about when, is it time to end this partnership, is frankly, when is it time to end it? I was just talking to a coaching client, might have been yesterday, and we were talking about how easy, it was actually a colleague, you know who you are if you're watching, and we were talking about how it can be so easy to begin things because things are exciting, things are new. Again, it could be on the personal side, could be on the business side, any type of partnership or collaboration, whatever. You with an organization, you with another person, you have an organization, you're collaborating with another person, any of those combinations. It's really easy to start because it's exciting and it could be fruitful and the imagination's going. It's like, yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see where it goes. Ending it, though, we tend to forget about that. We tend to forget about the follow through. We tend to forget about, oh, this is actually going to wrap up at a certain point. And to paraphrase Seth Godin, all relationships or partnerships eventually end, either when that business is getting acquired and they don't, and or and the business objectives change. Like again, my previous company, Cuddler, me and my two co-founders, we decided to sell it. That business was done, at least as far as our commitment to it, and therefore our partnership was done. So there's that. The business, goes out of business or gets acquired, decides to shut down shop, or one of the partners isn't involved anymore. And it could be through death, natural attrition, what have you, because we literally cannot be partners forever. So every partnership ends. What we can control is the facet and the grace as far as how that partnership ends. Knowing when it's time to end, I found it comes down to two specific things. Number one, when the mission is actually accomplished. Your business has nothing more to do. Your partnership has nothing more to do. Or number two, mission becomes different and the leaders or the partners involved don't have the same mission. When my co-founders and I sold Cuddler a few years ago, Cuddler was an app similar to Tinder or Grindr, where it allowed people to connect for hugs, tonic. And we took off. We had about 250,000 users at our peak, definitely 250,000 downloads and quite a few users. And we were on the cover of the Wall Street Journal. We're going to be in Raz on the late night talk shows and daytime things like Regis and Kelly back in the day and all those things. And so that kind of vibe. And then we decided to sell the company. Our decision to sell the company, though, was based on that moment when I was, if you've read any of the Bring Your Worth books, you probably know this story, where I was co-founder of this company at the same time that I was stay-at-home dad for my first son. And he was from when he was around 9 months old to I think we sold around his second birthday. So whatever that stretch is, a good 14, 15 months. In that process, I would wake up super early in the morning. Shout out to Charlie Williams. He was the other most active co-founder. Well as Jeff Kulak, shout out to him, but he was less active. It was mostly Charlie and I towards the end. And Charlie was based in the UK. I was based in Southern California at the time. So because of that time difference, because I had my baby at home, then I'd wake up at 3:15 in the morning. And then Charlie and I would have a daily meeting, daily operation check-in around 4 a.m. So it'd be around lunchtime his time over in the UK. And I remember waking up and going to the meeting and just looking him in the eye, and we both looked at each other. And I was like, I think we're done. And Charlie was like, yeah, I think we are. And we talked to Jeff later. He's like, yeah. And we were done because we accomplished our particular mission. Our mission, particularly, we all had different ideas of it, which I'll get to in a second. I know my particular mission, which I articulated very early on with the two folks I was co-founding with, was that my mission was to move the pop cultural needle so that we could see in real time that technology could be a place of warmth. It could be a place of connection. If we go back to 2014, 2015, when we were going through this experience, that was a period of time of Facebook kind of being at the most liked. This is before Cambridge Analytica and all these other things started to come out, before presidential elections and all the chaos that came just a few years after we sold. But it was a period of time also, even though Facebook was loved and adored, I was still on Facebook. I haven't been on there in years. The Facebook idea, the Twitter, which is starting to come of age at the time. And there was a lot of discussion about how technology tended to separate people. And so people were looking at their phones and they weren't really paying attention fully to their lives around them. And I wanted to kind of, being a tech journalist, I used to write for Playboy and a lot of the major publications, and understanding technology myself, I wanted us to help prove that technology could actually be used as a way to connect people, and in this case, for physical connection. And again, we're in the cover of Wall Street Journal. Us and a couple solopreneurs were called the people that created the cuddle economy, because it was an economy based on people connecting. We are part of that. I can throw a link in the replay so you guys can see the Wall Street Journal article. But you can just look up Cuddler, CUDDLR, and WSJ for Wall Street Journal. Came out in first week of January of 2015. My whole point is we had already accomplished our mission. I knew that. I think Charlie knew that too, even if he might have had a slightly different mission. It's like, okay, we did what we were supposed to do. And so then as soon as we kind of became open about that, then, the not quite a bidding war, but a lot of companies showed interest in the community that we built. And we had already created the community that we wanted to build within that year or so time. So number one, that partnership might be done, or that business partnership might be done when you actually accomplish the mission. You actually made that impact, hopefully on yourself and particularly for the world, in the way that y'all intended on doing. It's okay to have a limit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I haven't collaborated with the other guys since, but that collaboration for that, again, year and a half was fantastic. I would do it all again. It was great. Changed my career, and I know it had an impact on Charlie's career as well. We're able to also impact the world. So we already did what we meant to do. So there was no reason to keep the partnership going. It's kind of like, okay, let's go and get the band back together. Well, if there's a tour to do, you know what I'm saying? If there's a proverbial new album to cut, if you want to think about it from a music standpoint, and it's like, no, not really. We're good, we're cool, but there's no reason for us to work together again, because we accomplished what we're going to accomplish. So number one is that you actually accomplished the mission, and that partnership's done. We call it a limited run partnership. The second instance is when the missions actually differ. So y'all don't want the same things. I have a episode earlier this year where I talked about getting your intellectual property back. And in fact, it's in one of the suggested videos below. talking about how to have better partnerships as well as to do better contracts. So I talk property back in the companies that I've negotiated with, and I'm a sole proprietor. I have a couple people that I work with, but pretty much I'm a solo operation. And so the books that I've done back in the day with some of the major publishing houses, some of those cases, and in most cases, if you're working with a publishing house, just like the music industry, they're going to own the masters and intellectual property, the rights to it, et cetera, et cetera. You're still going to get paid for it, but that's kind of part of the partnership. It's usually part and parcel, unless you have some negotiation. One of the things I talked about in this episode was that most of the time I was able to negotiate getting that intellectual property back when the mission of the company or the publisher that actually bought the rights to my book, that mission changed. So a lot of the books that I write are about, my earlier books were about technology and culture, hence me getting involved with Cuddler. And then the second half of my career, or the second part of my career so far, I imagine there'll be a third act soon. The last 10 years or so has been focused on a lot of the stuff that's in this book, publishing my stuff, and as well as talking specifically with y'all as a side hustler, entrepreneur, also a non-traditional entrepreneur, and helping y'all get to the next level. That's been the last decade or so. If a publisher went in and said, hey, I'm going to work with you, Damon, because I really like the technology book idea that you have. I'm like, great. We end up signing a deal. They give me an advance, which is the money they give you up front so you can finish the book. And then you start getting paid after you earn out that advance when they sell X amount of books once the book is published, right? Really simple. As far as I'm simplifying it, I should say. I'm not going to say it's simple, but I'm simplifying it for you. Again, not a lawyer or an agent. But then what happens if the company doesn't care about technology books anymore? But you still do. Then that partnership doesn't quite make sense anymore. So it not only does the end of a partnership when you guys go in different directions, does it mark a time we have to make a decision as far as if it makes sense to continue on, because you don't want to waste each other's time, organization-wise, individually, what have you. But also, too, what parts of it actually still make sense in the mission and what parts don't make sense in the mission. So it's an opportunity for you to reflect on what matters the most to you. So I found that there's two instances when it's time to end a partnership. Number one, when the mission is accomplished. You don't have another mission on the board, particularly business-wise. It might be time to wrap it up. That's no harm, no foul. Like, okay, we did what we came to do, right? Just like coming in for our operation and then you disperse. Like Ocean's 11 or any of the Ocean's movies. They don't hang out all the time. They come in for that. And it's like, oh, we got another job. Okay. And then maybe the partnership gets revived under that aegis, my fancy word of the day. Or, which I think is way more common, is the mission actually isn't accomplished, but you and other people involved, other organizations involved, really not have the same mission. And that in itself is where I think it's a little bit more difficult. Because if you have mission accomplished, you're like, great, pat each other on the back. Hey, I'll see you when I see you. We'll get a drink sometime. But if you got different missions, one person or organization might want to go that way. You might want to go in this other direction. Once it gets to that point, then it gets, I think, a little bit more dicey. And that's what we're going to address in the next segment. If you want to go get a little more insight as far as the support that you might need legally to do this, I highly recommend LegalZoom. Again, the link is below. LegalZoom is fantastic. I've actually worked with them, so I'm talking the talk. I'm walking the walk here, not just talking the talk. So I've actually worked with them. I know they operate, and so anything from setting up a LLC to design and a partnership or what have you. One of the things I highly recommend, though, particularly if we're going to talk about ending partnerships, is that ending partnerships is a lot easier if you start from a kind and thoughtful place. What exactly are you trying to do? LegalZoom, if you're just starting your partnership now, or more importantly, if you already have a partnership and it's like a handshake, trying to shake your hand here, and it's sorry for 3D, and it's a handshake, but you haven't get the paperwork. Early on, when we launched Cuddler, it literally became an overnight success. We had 100,000 downloads within the first week. 10,000 completed cuddles, which is the interaction of people hugging each other. And we were in the late night talk shows. And I'd say within a week that I had touched base with other founders. I'm like, hey, we should, just in case, let's go and divide up this pie. And so we spent, it ended up being almost a month. Excuse me, I think it was a handful of weeks. Definitely a few weeks going over how much ownership we should have of this business. And initially we came back with the numbers and we had a wide gap. And so it was some many discussions, not really intense, but enough to like, oh, okay, I think I've contributed more than that. Or another person being like, no, that sounds a little high, or, I contribute more than that. But that discussion, but it got ironed out. 3 to 4 months later, we're on the cover of the Wall Street Journal, and about a month after that, we're like, yeah, we might want to wrap it up. 5 months after that, we're getting checks in our respective bank accounts. What if ironed it out? LegalZoom can help you do that, whether it's having some templates, having a lawyer for hire. I have a lawyer, you know who you are. I appreciate you to support, you might have a lawyer to support you, but that means you need a retainer. I learned all this stuff. You need a retainer. You need to, you're going to charge by usually by the quarter of an hour. If they're writing a letter for you, then, that could be an hour, 2 hours. And, I got a good lawyer. So if you're working with lawyers directly, it could easily cost you $200 to $400 an hour. I'm based in Las Vegas, so it might be a little bit higher here and on the rest of the West Coast. And of course, if you're in New York or whatever, so it might be cheaper where you are. But again, if your company might get acquired or your partnership is worth tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, God forbid, even millions of dollars, which I wish for you, but then you're going to get a $25 an hour attorney. We don't want to do that. If you're being budget conscious about it, definitely check out LegalZoom. They have a lot of setups and maybe even some templates or frameworks that'll help you get and going to where you need to be. Another recommendation would be one of my favorite books, Crucial Conversations. I tell you, I was trying to remember if I've sat there and read the whole book from cover to cover. And you see it behind my big head. I got a lot of books back here. I got more books in my other room with another bookcase, and I got some books in boxes and stuff like that. So I just recently moved to this office about a year ago, stuff like that. And so I'm used to going from cover to cover. Crucial Conversations is so good just to have on your bookshelf. Crucial Conversations is the type of conversation psychologically, this is an actual psychological term, where this conversation is a tipping point. This conversation will be the difference between things ending badly and things actually maybe even coming together in a better way in the future. The book itself is a collaborative process. I think there's like 6 authors. So they're walking the walk as well. Fantastic book. It was recommended to me, I'd say 2-3 decades ago. So it's a pretty old book. There's actually a newer edition that you have in links here as well as in the chat. And what I love about the book is that it simplifies what's at stake. You need to have these strong conversations. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be messy when you might recognize that you're going in 2 different directions. In fact, let me rephrase that. The only way you're going to know, unless it's ridiculously obvious, that you and the folks that you're partnering with have 2 different missions, or even frankly, that you even accomplished the mission. Because y'all might have thought one person might think they accomplished the mission, the other person might be like, that wasn't the mission. Without those conversations, crucial conversations to me means conflict. Being willing to hear the stuff you don't want to hear. Being willing to lift up the rock or look under the rug. Being willing to address the elephant in the room. That's what you're doing as far as having a good time. And I don't mean like party, but having a good time, a thoughtful time, a nourishing time when you're evaluating your partnerships. Because if you're not having tough conversations, how do you know what's going on? As many therapists have said, people are mind readers. So you got to have those difficult conversations. And frankly, if you do not have difficult conversations now, you sure as hell will have difficult conversations later. So I can't even get the words in my mouth. And that's from personal experience, as you can tell. My video recommendation would be get better contracts and protect your intellectual property. Again, all the links are below. It's a video that came out, I think it was episode 421. So it probably came out a couple months ago. And it is a grand sweep. This is, again, this is episode 430. So this is a grand sweep of so many moments where we had these conversations, both live and about how to handle contracts, how to negotiate properly, how to start partnerships. All that's in there. It's like a mega mix, as we used to say back in the hip hop days. And I think it'll really help you get to where you need to be. My name is Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I'm here with you Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. My latest book, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. You can go and check it out wherever fine books are sold. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier, you can actually go ahead and listen to the audiobook, of course, through all the major platforms. The audiobook right now at bringyourworth.tv after we finish hanging out. The link is below. It's my gift to y'all. That's a nice thing about owning your own publishing company. You do what you want with the content that you got. Speaking of intellectual property, I want you guys to have that kind of connection as well. All right, number two, if you realize, yeah, Damon, this partnership's a wrap. Either it's mission accomplished, or you realize that your mission with your partners is different and it doesn't make any sense anymore. How do I end it gracefully? I think it comes to two direct things. Really simple, I believe. The first thing is to have honest communication. Again, crucial conflicts, crucial conversations. Crucial conflict is actually a rap group. I'm stuck on the 90s rap right now. Shout out to them. If you know who they are, you know who they are. All right, so Crucial Conversations, the book I recommended earlier in the episode, highly recommend that one. You have to have an honest conversation because you're not going to know if your missions are different unless you're regularly communicating. With the co-founders with Cuddler, the last business that we end up getting acquired, me and particularly the one of the other co-founders, Charlie, we would have a meeting almost every single day, every single work day. And I had a baby at home. A baby was about to turn into a toddler. He was going on 1 when we started Cuddler. Yeah, we had to communicate that often. Still had conflicts, still had challenges for sure. And I think Charlie would agree. But how many more issues if we didn't communicate regularly every day? And being honest about that. When I knew instinctively it was time to wrap up Cuddler and for us to sell it or to do whatever we're going to do, I was honest. I was like, yeah, I think we're done. And they were like, yeah, you're right. We are done. I was saying the same thing. It's like, great. We're all on the same page. But imagine if I didn't have the bravery to say that. So number one, honest communication. You might assume that saying, yeah, this partnership should end or we should wrap this up. I'd assume that's going to hurt someone else's feelings or this company might not want to work with you again and you're burning a bridge and all that. But frankly, you don't know. And if that's your biggest concern is as far as the longevity of the relationship, then it has to be based on communication anyway. So if you're going to be working with or want to stay in good standing with, say, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that you have with, which I'm in that situation where it's like, how do I broach this with them? But I knew, and that I'm thinking of one case in particular, I knew that I need to have an honest conversation with them, a conflict, to actually keep a healthy relationship. And come to find out that project we were working on, it wasn't going in the direction it was supposed to be going. They probably appreciated that I brought it up. And then I'm working with them more later. And I got more money from my business and they were able to work with me some more. And they got the content or what have you that they needed. We're all cool. But if it wasn't for that moment of saying, yeah, this isn't it, and being honest about that, then, we're just playing a game. They might be feeling the same way. So sometimes when you have that honest communication, that's also a signal with the partnerships, business partnerships you have. That's actually a signal of leadership because you're willing to say the things that needs to be said, not because you're mean or because you're a guy that always tells it how it is, not because of that, but because you have that business partnership enough to be honest with the other people involved. That's a level of respect that we don't always have for each other. So number one, if you want to end things gracefully, or at least consider ending things gracefully, you got to start with honest communication. And I found I tend to be relatively direct. And I found when I am honest, whether it's a personal thing or a business thing, whatever, even with family, I can sometimes see that like the other person or whoever I'm interacting with, their shoulders go down. And sometimes they'll audibly sigh and be like, wow, yeah, I'm glad you said that because I'm feeling the same way about that. But somebody has to say it. If you're going to be that side hustle, that solopreneur, if you're going to be a non-traditional entrepreneur, then this is something that you're going to have to get used to. I've done 27 books. Half of them are co-authorships. That means I'm working with somebody else. That means I'm splitting the royalties, breaking it down in some form with somebody else. That means how about half my books are with traditional publishers. So that means I have a commitment with my agent, shout out to Marilyn, as well as to my co-author. And then I have a commitment with the agent and the co-author. And that's with the big publishing house that all of them are in the same zip code in Midtown Manhattan and most of their office. Shout out to them. And so I have a commitment with them, but it's tied to my agent as well as to the co-author. Like that's a spider web. Not saying it's a bad thing. About 14 of my books are co-authorships. I loved co-authoring. Hope to do it in the future. My point is that to do fully, that's managing what, 3 different relationships? And the combination of all of them. I've been in co-authorships and or worked with agents that weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. But then I still had to show up for the organization, the company, people that we all made the commitment to. I had to carry the load. But those people who were not carrying the load, those organizations that were not carrying the load, absolutely heard from me as far as what that commitment meant and how they weren't carrying their part of it. And the result of it is whatever. But the important thing is that clear communication was there. So as far as ending things gracefully, or at least looking into it, number one, clear communication. The second part of it is that you assume there are no bad guys. The aforementioned organizations or people, whatever, who frankly dropped the ball. I know they dropped the ball. Sometimes the organization that we were doing the work for didn't even know they dropped the ball. But that's part of partnership. That's part of commitment. You figure out how to follow through, even if the people that you're working with aren't able to follow through or aren't able to get it together. There were definitely feelings there, particularly on my end, in some cases in their end. But from my standpoint, there were no bad guys. There might have been bad results as far as our partnership. One of the reasons why, in some of these cases, I was like, yeah, that's the end of our partnership. But it doesn't mean that they had ill intention. There might have been something personal going on with them. They might have underestimated how much they could commit. Maybe they're not good, as I talked about at the top of the episode. Maybe they're not that good. They're not good at following through. I mean, that's the case sometimes. Maybe that's not a strength of theirs. Maybe, I know in one case, they had never been for a business partnership. So they didn't get it. Maybe they were used to backing off of commitments and being like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. But that's not how I conduct my relationships, business or otherwise. So there's a conflict where it's like, oh, this is how you handle things. Not judging how you handle things, but if that's how you handle things, we shouldn't be partners because that's not how I handle things. And then we're going to have a crucial conversation and maybe a crucial conflict. No wonder I got the two mixed up, right? So if you're looking to wrap up things gracefully, or at least consider them, number one, you got to have honest conversations. Number two, realize that often there aren't any bad guys. It's really not. It's just people's different approaches of doing things. Does that mean you have to part with them again? Or the whole point of this episode, does that mean you need to stay in partnership with them? Hell no. Don't. If they don't fit your principles / ethics / execution, then no, don't rock with them. That's fine. That's what this is about. Heck, that's what personal relationships are about. There's people that I absolutely care about that are not in my life anymore. Because the way they do things, I'm like, you're not taking me to an early grave. I got beautiful kids to take care of. You're stressing me out. I love you dearly. I can't do it. Nope. You need to hang out with people, friendship or otherwise, who have your standard. We're not on the same standard. I can't rock with you. The more honest you can be about that, not mean, but direct as far as having opinions, I think the better off everyone involved will be. Because at least they'll know where you stand. And when you share where you stand, I found almost like a mirror, other people, other organizations even. You can look at my LinkedIn, you can read my books. I've worked with a lot of different types of organizations, coached hundreds of people. Doesn't matter how big the organization, whether it's a billion, I think one case, $1 trillion corporation. Yeah, it might have been a couple trillion in there. $1 trillion corporation or, another entrepreneur. At the end of the day, there's going to be a level of respect. They might not like it, a level of respect when you're able to be honest with them and have that crucial conversation. The second part is that there are no bad guys. Everyone has their own MO. Sometimes people or organizations don't really know their MO until they're already in the partnership. And that sometimes is enough reason to dissolve the partnership itself. If you want to go deep into it, my favorite book on the topic, 4 Agreements. A personal book, slightly spiritual, but not super spiritual, but definitely has that, the universe has a way kind of energy. And it's 4 really simple agreements. They got them right here. You can put them on a freaking postcard or index card, if you know my style. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Ding, ding, ding. Number 3, don't make assumptions. Number 4 is do your best. That's it. And then it goes deeper into that. You see, I got dog ears on here. There's also another book called The Fifth Agreement, which I have not read yet. I heard that's decent. But those 4 agreements, particularly the one that jumps out at me, is don't take anything personal. So, of course, if it's personal, personal partnership, and I've worked with family members, with spouses, with, my best friend and I had worked together. That happens sometimes. I'm surrounded by really creative and interesting people. It's naturally going to happen. It's like, let's do it together. Even in those cases, when the business side doesn't work out, it just is. And so if you're going to be having these collaborations with friends, or with loved ones, with family, then you're going to have to work on having these difficult conversations. You're going to have to work on recognizing there is no bad guy, just a perspective. And lastly, as talked about in the 4 agreements, recognizing that you can't really take it personally. Now, if they hurt your feelings, that's a separate subject. I get that. I'm a sensitive guy. I get that part. But the business side, everybody has a different opinion on that. There's not much you can do about that, unless you want to argue with them until their face is blue, but they probably believe that they're right. So speaking of, another recommendation, you'll see at the link below, and also in the chat over here, is awkward conversations. And it talks about that, it mentions the 4 agreements as well as other ways that we can have these tough conversations. Again, you're seeing the pattern here. Communication is such a big deal when it comes to ending partnerships gracefully. Be sure and check out the episode. I want to say it's from like 2 years ago, but it holds up really well. And I think if you're struggling with that and not sure how to start the conversation, that would be a place to start. My name is Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-entrepreneur. You're watching Bringing Worth TV. This is a new setup, so I'll be working on the chat and all the other stuff in future episodes. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I always like to update the technology. If you read the newsletter at joindamon.me, I think it was last week's newsletter, and I was talking about the game Operation, where you have to read sometimes, and sometimes you have to do some self-operation to excise this, move this around. The streaming platform is part of that right now too, so it's part of a new summer as far as me experimenting with new stuff. So thank you so much. If there's any links that you're seeing down here, they're actually going to be below my big head, as I always say, within the content. Or if you're watching live or watching the replay, you can go ahead and see it in the chat if you happen to be watching it at bringingworth.tv. And this is bringingworth.tv, come to you Wednesdays live at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Thanks for coming through. And my latest book, The Complete Bringing Worth Collection, get where fine books are sold. Last big idea, which I think is really important. Excuse me, so many little gnats right now because it's so hot. It's like, like I'm getting attacked all the time. That's why I keep rubbing my nose. Between that and sinus issues, such an amazing start to the summer. And in Vegas, summer has just started. All right, let me get myself together. What are ways to build smarter partnerships? Number 3, such an important part of the discussion. We end often how we begin. We finish start. When it comes to smart partnerships, I think the first step is to create clear boundaries from the beginning. One of the places I recommend, LegalZoom, the link is below. I think you get a bonus if you end up doing it through me, so the link is below. But working with LegalZoom, hiring your own lawyer. Again, I have my own business lawyer. Shout out to him. Figuring out ways and systems that define those boundaries. Now, those boundaries could be, we're agreeing to do this, or those boundaries could literally be a contract to say, this is the extent of our partnership. As I talked about it in the show, when you're working with a partner or partnership, organization, individual, what have you, when I say partner, it could be any of those. It's okay to have a limited engagement. That's okay. Say that. Establish that. Be like, yeah, we're going to work together to launch this thing. Okay, the thing is launched. Okay. Then you can make other decisions and be like, you know what? Let's launch another thing. Or you could be like, yo, I appreciate you. I think I'm done for right now. And that's okay too, because you set that boundary. Whether it is the communication or literally with a contract, you set a boundary. Contract is nothing but boundary setting. And so if there's issues or if one of the people in the partnership is confused and not sure, they can look at the contract and be like, oh yeah, that's a boundary. I'm not going to cross that. All right, no problem. Not a big deal. Cool. So number 1, setting those clear boundaries from the beginning is how you can create a really smart partnership. Number 2 is to spell out your intentions and listen when others are actually sharing them. Spelling out your intentions and listening when other people are actually sharing them. I think it's a really key part of it where we are things that we have on our agenda. It's a pet peeve of mine, but I know that's because I try to be really intentional with my partnerships. When I'm talking to someone, whether it's someone I'm coaching, which I usually will give them some strong feedback, or even people that I just know. And they'll say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and partner with this organization or this person. I'm like, oh, okay, so what's going on? It's like, well, I want this, so I'm gonna make sure I get that out of it. And so that's gonna give me what I need. Okay, so what? Okay, you said it was a partnership, not a purchase, right? It's not one way. So what do you so why are they partnering with you? And I've asked people that and they get confused because they didn't think about it. What exactly are the other people in this organization, in this partnership? What out of the situation with you? Because for several reasons, but I'll just name the first 2. The first thing is that you don't necessarily want to have an extractive, which would be my word, an extractive relationship where it's like me, 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 me. Because eventually, and I've seen, you know, I think classic R&B song, a soul song, it's that old. The song "You're Running Out of Fools." I think I know the Isaac Hayes version, but it was actually a cover. Isaac Hayes version was like 1979. The original version had to be back in the 60s or 50s. Shout out to the classic soul folks. But it's like you must be running out of fools because you took all the things out of our partnership, you moved on to the next thing, and now you're back here, and it's like you were extracted. I don't want to be that person, that organization, that business. The second part of it is that you don't want to get dropped before, frankly, even from a selfish standpoint, you get what you need. So if you're not sure and you weren't really listening, why people or organization, whatever, is giving you a bag of money or giving you a deal or whatever, and you're just myopic on what you're going to get out of it, then the chances of you, frankly, getting screwed or even getting dropped before you get what you need are exponentially higher. Really simple example. I love following the music business. I have videos about Prince and Jay-Z and even the dynamics with Kendrick, with J. Cole, and with Drake. More recently, I have a video that talks about that in power moves that you can use as a creative, as well as, of course, using in the music industry. As you can tell by John Coltrane over there, I love music. Got a record player right over there with Collection of Vinyl. Often particularly when young folks have a major company that's interested in them, one of the big guys, like a Sony Music or a UMG or one of those guys, Def Jam, whoever. And that company is like, hey, little guy, we'll give you a $1 million deal. And it's like, wow, even after taxes, and I pay my agent or whatever, that's like $500,000. I'm good, especially if you haven't seen money before. You're like, oh my God, for life, right? Of course, as you get older, you see my gray hair, you start to realize that how much money you actually need, but it's still a good deal of money. I'm not going to refuse that, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to push it away. But that's what they're focused on. They're like, hey, I got over on the record company. I'm going to get my $1 million. That means $500,000 from me. I can buy a house for my mom and for my people, and then I'll be set for a while. And I might get this jewelry or whatever you're into, right? For me, it'll be on travel and food, right? But whatever you're into. But then they sign the contract. Again, not listening to what the company is going to get, the partner is going to get. There's a partnership, not listening to what the partnership is going to get. And then they might be in a 7-album deal, which is horrendous. And based on the scheduling, because you can't just drop all the albums. I've done 3 books in a row within a year, but I own my own publishing company. When you sign for one of the majors, they have their schedule. They have Taylor Swift coming out, and you don't want to be around that. And then you don't want to do an album right after this other album because they'll be sick of you, and so the press will be burnt out on you, and maybe the music lovers won't be into it because they're still listening to your old album. Or maybe there's a hit on that first album, and we want to say that in rotation because you're making a lot of money on that from the streaming, so we don't want your second album to come out. Again, I'm just spitballing, but this is stuff that we hear. So you sign a 7-album deal, just thinking about the $1 million, and that means you might be able to only do a book. See, I'm used to the book industry. Do an album every 18 months, if you're lucky. Okay, so that $1 million they gave you, that's the last 10 years. That's $100,000 a year before taxes, before you start handing out money to family and your friends, before you start needing security because you're so popular, before you move to a posh place because you can't live in the hood anymore, or even you have to be a nice place because you want to look the part. That's not to mention them owning your stuff, and so you can't own your masters, your intellectual property. I could talk about this all day. It's a fascinating subject to me because you end up seeing folks who end up signing a deal in their 20s, and then you see them 10 years later, maybe 20 years later. Again, you see the gray hair. You see them closer to my age, and then they're hiring a lawyer who's charging $1,000 an hour. I don't blame them either. It's worth it to get out of this quote unquote bad deal. What happened? They might not have proper representation, but then also, this goes back to the point, spell out your intentions. What's your intention? But more importantly, listen to what other people's intentions are. Their intention in that partnership is to say, hey, you're happy. We're going to give you 10 cents for every dollar that you earn for us. You do the math, it does not sound good. Plus, you're going to have to recoup the CD cost or the uploading cost when you go on the street. When you get on that private jet to go to Coachella, we're going to be charging you from that out of 10 cents that you're getting on the dollar. And you still have to pay back this $1 million. You're going to be in that forever, unless you're top 1% artist. Same thing for the book industry. And so, and other industries, movie industry, you might have saw the recent discussion with Ryan Coogler, shout out to him, Coogler, and his deal with Sinners, the very popular movie that came out a couple months ago, earlier this year. And that means that he will actually have ownership over the intellectual property. And I think it's Warner Brothers, whoever he's working with, will not have. So that's literally, I don't know if he has kids, but that's a legacy in the Coogler family. He's on that scale, but he's doing the same stuff I'm doing with my books. Like this is part of the Brown family. Like nobody owns this. Like this is ours. If I were to pass out right now, not planning on it, but if I were to pass out right now, my kids will have the book. Like that kind of thing. My mama will have the book. Those things come about, and we make those mistakes when we're focused on what we want versus hearing what the other person's trying to get out of it. Not that it's malicious, but we have to know. Otherwise, why would they be giving you a bag of money? Why would they be making a deal with you? It's a simple question. We think it's because of our charm or because we got over. No, it's because they're getting something out of the partnership. That is crucial. That is key. And if you're not recognizing that because you're focused on what you're going to get out of it, you're going to be focusing over while whoever you're partnered with, multiple people, organization, whatever, they're going to be getting what they need. And you might not even know what they need. And that means while you're trying to get over, they could be kicking you to the curb, as we used to say, before you even get what you need. Again, you got to read the label. Shout to Jizza. You got to read the labels. Part of that. So number one, creating clear boundaries from the very beginning. That's how you make successful and strong, smarter partnerships. Two is to spell out your intentions and listen when others actually share them. And finally, understand the intended outcome. What is the intended outcome? Is it a book? There's some people, I always talk about this with the people that I coach. Some of you are watching right now. If you're going to coach with me in the future, then this is important. Whenever or before I take on one as a coaching client, and it could be someone who's multimillionaire, who's a successful founder. It could be someone who's, just out of grad school and they're trying to get their stuff together. Y'all know who you are. That represents the wide swath of people that I coach. Our first conversation is about what's the actual outcome of this. What is the measurement of success? And in some cases, there's folks that I've coached for several years now. There's other folks where I coach them just for a season. As I seasons in today's newsletter at joindamon.me, talking about what to do when you can't see the path. But there's seasons for everything. Where some of them, this one person I coached recently, we just coached for a few. That was all they needed. Outcome, mission accomplished, done. And in other folks, it's like it's a continual process. I want to level up how I show up in the world. Okay. That's probably not going to be a couple weeks, right? It's a process. It's a habit. That takes time. So what exactly is the intended outcome? And this intended outcome, I would argue, for a successful, smart partnership, it has to be shared. It has to be. It has to be shared. You wanting one outcome and then your partner or partners wanting different outcomes, unless the Venn diagram is ridiculously tight, like the union is, and it overlaps that much, maybe get away with that. But chances are there's going to be dissatisfied partners within that. And that's the seed for dissension. So smart partnerships, number one, creating clear boundaries from the beginning. It could be contractual, it could be a crucial conversation. Number two is to spell out your intentions and listen when others have to share something. Really important. Number three, understand the intended outcome. And is it a shared outcome? If it's not, that needs to be a conversation. If you want to go deeper into that, the book Transitions, one of my favorite books, has been recommended to me for literally for decades. What's it say, 40th anniversary edition? And this is an old book too. It wasn't 40th this year. This copy is relatively old. Fantastic. William Bridges, I know, couldn't have a better name for this guy. I always thought it was a joke. I was like, did he change his name? No, his name's Bridges. Did a book, the definitive book about transitions. Fantastic book. It's helped me through some really hard stuff personally as well as business-wise. Highly recommend it. Again, you can see the dog ears if you look closely. And there's three parts to every transition if we're talking about ending something. There's the ending, there's the neutral zone, and the new beginning. One of the key things that I took away from this is that they all overlap. As I talked about, again, at my newsletter, joindamon.me today, about when you can't find the path or when you don't see the path. The ending is going to over neutral zone. Neutral zone, as you can probably guess, means kind of the liminal space, the in-between. And then the neutral zone, the in-between, is going to spread into the new beginning. But you can't have the new beginning without the ending. And you can't have the ending unless you start. So in a sense, it's all part of the same mass. And the more you accept that, the more you're able to find peace when things aren't black and white and cut and dry. That's part of the conversation we're having today. Hopefully some of these tools will help you find comfort in the things that are vague. And the power often comes from recognizing the parts that we actually have control over. If you're unsure about this partnership, talk with the partner, talk with the organization, but do it in a way where you're not talking at them, but actually not about your outcome, but also listening to what they have to say. And maybe that partnership transitions into something else. I don't know how many times, countless, now that I'm starting to think about it. That could be a whole different episode I could talk about the amount of times where it was one particular type of relationship and it shifted to something else. And then it shifted to something else. And then ended up being in some fourth iteration. I'm going to that with like 3 or 4 of my relationships right now, where they're shifting into something else. Hell, if you're a parent or you have a hand in guiding a young person, that happens almost every damn day. They're shifting. So even if you're of age, I'm fully grown, even if you're of age, they're shifting. So then the relationship has to shift. That's the case for all our relationships. But I think once we become adults, we become fixed in this idea where it's supposed to stay the same. It's not. All of our relationships are in transition. There are people that have coached me or mentored me or literally taught me. And then afterwards, they became like mentors just in a broad sense. And then we became peers. And then for some things, I'm actually mentoring them now. That's just the flow. That's just the water of life. That's how it works. So if we're talking about ending or evolving partnerships, you got to talk about this book. And it has tools to more from a mindset to frame around whatever transition you're about to go into. And the last recommendation would be start your business now, step by step. The full masterclass, as I talked about at the top of the show, just finished a masterclass about starting your business from idea to execution to getting paid to even getting acquired. I went into even more detail than I did today about the experience of having my startup acquired quite a few years ago. And what went into it, how things are broke down, how you get paid in those instances, how sometimes you don't get paid in those instances, all is revealed as much as possible within the live show format. Check it out. The link is below. I so appreciate y'all coming through. Thank you for rolling with the new format. We're going to work on this and hopefully have some more graphics, and those are actually called griffins at the back. Shout out to my master's in journalism. It's actually coming in handy. Shout out to Northwestern. But the griffins at the bottom, or I'm sorry, chyrons. See, I didn't remember what it was called. Chyrons, you see them on CNN and stuff. We'll get back to that. We'll get into the flow. But thank you for rolling with me today. I appreciate the comments. And I will see y'all soon, whether it's in an old episode or on the next live coming on Wednesday. Until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves, particularly right now. Take care of yourselves and take care of others. Bye for now.